there, welcome or welcome back to my channel, and I'm back with more of a routine video, yay! I'm wrapping up my month of July reading, so it's really weird. I was off for the first sort of 2 weeks of July. My parents were visiting and it was really fun, and my parents love reading, so lots of time we just had quiet time. But I've been doing a lot of reading for my PhD and realized, yeah, maybe I should be reading more, in my day-to-day on my PhD rather than on sort of the dedicated days that I've allowed myself. So yeah, so a new habit that I've started to do, and that means that in July I actually only listen to audiobooks. So I read only 4 books in July, and all 4 were audiobooks. So a little bit disappointed in myself, but also aware that there's especially one big chunky academic book that I took the time properly to read, and yeah, it was okay. Since the sort of end of July, I started picking up sort of physical books again for pleasure more than for work and study. And yeah, it's been nice, but most of them end up finishing in the beginning of August, so here we are. But I thought I would take a moment to review all 4 books, and I'll try to keep it short and sweet. The first book that I finished was Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, so I had to remember the title. And it's funny because actually I realized that I mentioned it in my mid-year celebration tag, even though I actually read most of it and finished it in July. I think when I was going through all the books, we were already into July when I did that, so I just forgot. But yeah, this is a second half of the year read, and yeah, I just like an Emily Henry book to lighten the mood. I'd been reading a lot for the women's prizes. Sorry, I keep using women's prize, but for both fiction and non-fiction. And some of the topics were heavier than others, obviously. So it was nice to sort of lighten and freshen up the palette a little bit. I do think that this one sort of tackles, all of rom-com that I do enjoy, tackle some harder topics along the way. In this one, it's very much about boundary setting, but also about expectation with yourself and family. So it's a lack of communication between the sort of main character narrator and her mother after the loss of her father, who she sort of related a lot more to. And she feels that her mother doesn't appreciate or value the fact that she's a journalist, and she sort of wants to start writing more like autobiography and stuff. So yeah, so I think she has a lot to prove to herself and to her mother, and that sort of colors a lot of the book, really. Through that, the main story is that she's invited by a sort of famous woman who's become a bit of a recluse to discuss how potentially her biography would be like, the work on it. But then when she gets there, she realizes there's actually also a man there, a famous journalist that she's like the work of, who's also been invited along, and the two of them sort of have to compete for attention and time, and obviously romance ensues. I enjoy the romance enough. I did feel like it was a bit like reined in, like a bit too much, like it felt really forced. So yeah, I enjoyed the read. I enjoyed the discovery and the boundary and the I guess some notes about life, about how life evolves and our relationship, and I guess regrets, but also what you can actually do with open communication. I think that's one of the key things in this book. So yeah, a good one if you enjoy Emily Henry. You can continue on your sort of journey of reading her books, is sort of what I would say. If you're new to Emily Henry, I don't think this is the one that I would start with, but this is a discussion for another time. The second audiobook that I listened to was The Last Quantista by Donna Barba. Is it Barba? Yes, Donna Barba Higuera. And honestly, I didn't know much about this one. I just saw it was available and I wanted a nice little like book. And also I realized I have a challenge this year. I want to read more sort of Latinx authors and Latino authors, and I've been struggling. Actually, I've not been reading that many. So I saw this one, I saw the title, and I was just like, you know what, giving me vibes, The Last Storyteller, like all of that. What I did not expect is that this book is actually based in a future with travel to different planet, and they're basically about to start a whole different like location for humanity. And this little girl, the Last Quantista, really, and her and her family are sort of on the last ship that's sort of off to go and create this new society. She wakes up and she's sort of been almost like brainwashed, but brain trained, I guess. Like it's been resonating in her mind the whole time she's been sort of asleep and cryoed or whatever, and that she's like a scientist now. Anyway, and there's like discovery of like little, you know, things on the new planet that they're into, and like samples, and like that sort of lost me. Didn't enjoy this that much. I really liked the part where she was actually being Cuentista, and she was actually bringing storytelling and bringing that, I guess, imagination and a bit more levity, but also discussing sort of stronger themes and stories, but through a levity, especially as she's telling a lot of the stories to children around her. So yeah, so again, a sort of mixed bag here. I don't think this was for me, because I realized after the fact what it was really about, and also I think it's YA, and so I don't think I was the audience, but you know, still went through and enjoyed enough the experience. In number 3, well, funny enough, I read the 3rd book in the Legendborn series. I think all of us thought it was going to be a trilogy. It is not. So yeah, I read the 2nd one earlier this year. Well, I read this one during pandemic. I actually really enjoyed it. Obviously, I had my issues with, you know, at some point you realize that the timeline's been like a week, and you're like, that is wild for teenagers to go this intense into love stories and adventures, and it's been like a week and a half, and you're like, okay. I read the 2nd one earlier this year, and it took me a while to get into it, but then once I was into it, by the time I finished it, I was like pumped. I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready for the 3rd one. This will be good. I put a hold on this 3rd one, Oathbound. I just received it in July, so I was like listening to it. I'll actually sit on it for like a week, because I think I also had Great Big Beautiful World. My parents were here, and like a lot of stuff, so I sat on it, and then I only had like a week to listen to. I want to say it's a 25-hour audiobook. That's too long. Like, I'm sorry, that is too long. And I went to see some of the reviews, and the only negative ones that were just like, like the only slightly negative ones were, this book is too long. It's about 100 or 200 pages too long. So I can appreciate that in the audio is also definitely felt like a lot of filler. We weren't with Brie very as much as the other books as well. I enjoy having other perspectives, so we get chapters with the perspective of a lot of different characters, and I actually enjoyed that. Did I think it added much? Some of them, no. I don't think they did add much. And I feel like there was a twist, but it was just setting up the next book, and I don't know if the next book will be the last one. I have no idea at this moment. So yeah, I think this was my least favorite one, actually, unfortunately, and it doesn't really make me that pumped for the next one, so I feel that's unfortunate that compared to the other two, this one is falling a bit flat for me. And I don't know if it'd been like a bit more concise, if I'd been a bit more like with it, but it was a lot. Like, you would just really drag through the first half especially. Oh my god. And I think that's why it took me so long to get into it, and then I had like a week to try to finish it, is because the beginning I kept being like, who is this character? Obviously I didn't reread all the books, but I was just like, who are these people? And especially because sometimes the chapter would start in the perspective of a different character, and I'd be like, who's this? So yeah, didn't love this one. I'll still read the 4th one when it comes out, and I will still continue, because I'm like hoping that the next one is like closer to the 1st and 2nd book. So yeah, if you've read the series, let me know what you think, because I'll be really interested to hear your thoughts. And finally, the last audiobook that I listened to in July is How to Seal Your Own Fate by Kristen Perrin. This is the 2nd in the Castle Knoll Files series. So I read the 1st one. This is How to Solve Your Own Murder. I read that, I want to say last year or earlier this year, I don't remember. I really enjoyed it, actually. I think I requested it on NetGalley, because it sounded really just fun. Like, I like the concept of it, of this woman who dies. That's the trigger of the story, and then I think it's her niece, who's the main character really, like goes to her house, and then it becomes this whole thing about, I knew I was gonna get murdered, and whoever figures it out will get my, I guess, inheritance, will get my estate. And she has created file along her life with the knowledge that she was going to get murdered, and it sort of helps. So that's the whole point of how to solve your own murder. So I really like the concept. I think it was well done. Yeah, great. This second one, I was a bit confused about what the concept was even supposed to be. I guess this is just continuing this woman now lives in this village, Castle Knoll. Is that a village or is that the actual estate where she lives? I don't remember. That's how little I've absorbed. But yeah, so I think it's just gonna become like almost like a murder like series where like these crimes happen, like, you know, sort of cozy crime fiction. But to me, the appeal of the first one just wasn't sustaining the second one. I thought it was fine, like it was crime fiction. That's not my cup of tea, so that's why I like the innovation and I guess novelty maybe of the first one. And I think this one was more of a classic, like this thing happened, let's try to solve it. Oh, I've been fakely accused, or like I've been set up, and all of that stuff. So yeah, so if you've read the first one and you're not sure about the second one, I would say give it a pass if you're not really into crime fiction, like normal crime fiction, I guess, or cozy crime fiction. Like if you're like me and you just thought it was a really cool concept for the first one, it doesn't repeat. If you enjoyed it and you enjoy just this kind of crime fiction, then keep going. Obviously you'll probably like it. And I do enjoy this character actually. And yeah, I probably would read the third one to sort of keep giving the series a try. So yeah, it's really funny because like saying the comments of these 4 books, I feel like I didn't have that good of a reading month, but also I feel like I've been in a reading slump a little bit. I have. And the audiobooks that I had access to and was quite keen to read were actually 3 of these I had holds on for a while, obviously. Emily Henry, Tracy, Deonn, and Kristen, Perrin. And I just feel like all of them felt just a bit flat, but sometimes it's just the mood you're in, you know, so make of that what you will. But I don't know, ever since I started a couple of books at the end of July, and I feel like I finished a month on a high because I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna finish, and then I finished them all in early August. So maybe in my next wrap up, I'll be more excited and happy to share all my thoughts on these other books. But for now, that's how I'll leave you. But let me know what you read in July. What was your favorite book and a book you might recommend? And as always, thank you so much for watching, and see you back. Bye!